Codelenium. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Codelenium podcast. I'm your host, Rafid, and today we are diving deep into one of the most popular tools for automating web browsers, Selenium. If you're just starting your journey in the world of automation testing, you're in the right place. We'll be answering some common questions about Selenium, what it is, how it works, how you can get started, and more. Whether you're an aspiring QA professional, developer, or just someone interested in web automation, I've got you covered in this session. So let's get into it. So the first question is, what is Selenium? Let's start with the basics. One of the first questions I get asked is, what exactly is Selenium? So let me break it down for you. Selenium is an open source suite of tools used for automating web browsers. It allows you to write scripts in different programming languages like Java, Python, Ruby, and JavaScript to automate web applications for testing purposes. Essentially, it's a tool that makes browsers do what you want them to do. And when I say browsers, I mean Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, and even Edge. Selenium is used mainly in software testing to validate web applications, but it can also be used for tasks like web scraping, data extraction, and even repetitive tasks that involve interacting with a web browser. Now, you might be wondering why Selenium. The answer lies in its versatility. It supports multiple browsers, platforms, and programming languages. Whether you're working on a Mac, Windows, or Linux, Selenium has you covered. Okay, so why is Selenium so popular? Now that we know what Selenium is, let's tackle another common question I get. Why is Selenium so popular? What makes it stand out in the world of browser automation? And first of all, it's open source, which means it's free to use. This is huge for developers and testers who don't want to spend money on proprietary tools. And because it's open source, there's a large community behind it, contributing code, solving issues, and constantly improving it. And secondly, its compatibility with multiple programming languages makes it incredibly flexible. So whether you're fluent in Java, Python, C Sharp, or JavaScript, you can use Selenium in a language you're comfortable with. This is one of the reasons Selenium became so popular. It allows you to integrate browser automation into your existing tech stack without having to learn a whole new language. Another key factor is that it's not just about functionality, it's also about scalability. Selenium can handle automation of small test cases to large, complex test suites. It's used by both small startups and large enterprises, proving its capability in handling a variety of testing needs. Okay, so another question is, how does Selenium work? So let's dive deep into the mechanics of how Selenium actually works. This is an important question because understanding its architecture will help you make the most of this tool. At its core, Selenium interacts with a web browser through a component called the WebDriver. So the WebDriver is what communicates with the browser, mimicking user interactions like clicks, text input, form submissions, and much more. Now, the Selenium architecture has a few key components. The first one is the Selenium WebDriver. This is the most important part of the Selenium suite. It provides an interface for controlling the browser. And then there's Selenium IDE, which is a tool for recording, for record and playback of interactions with a web application. It's great for beginners and people who don't want to write code at first. And then there's Selenium Grid. Selenium Grid allows you to run tests on different machines, different environments, and different browsers simultaneously, speeding up the testing process for large test suites. The fourth one, we have Selenium RC, or Selenium Remote Control. And it's an older tool that Selenium used before WebDriver became the dominant component. It's not as widely used today, but did the groundwork for the WebDriver we use now. The WebDriver, which is the most commonly used tool, interacts directly with the browser by sending commands to it, which results in automated actions like navigating to a web page, filling out forms, and clicking on elements. The the WebDriver works independently of the browser's interface, making it more stable and faster for automated testing. So how do you set up Selenium? Uh, so let's talk about setup. How do you actually get started with Selenium? The good news is getting Selenium up and running is fairly simple, and you can do it in just a few steps. And here's a high-level overview. The first thing you want to do is you want to install the WebDriver for your browser. So it depends on what web browser you plan to use. You need to download and install the corresponding WebDriver. So for example, if you're using Chrome, you want to install Chrome driver for Firefox. You'll need Gecko driver, and for Safari, you'll use Safari's WebDriver. The next step will be to install Selenium in your programming language of choice. So if you're using Python, you can install Python. You can install Selenium using pip with the command pip install selenium. But for Java, you'll add it as a dependency in your Maven or Gradle project. Similarly, for JavaScript or Ruby, there are simple installation steps that work for your respective environment. Then the next step is to write your first Selenium script. So once everything is set up, you can write a simple script to open a browser and perform some basic actions. So for example, opening a website or clicking a button. Then the fourth step after you've written the script is to run the script and you watch it in action. I know that sounds like a lot, but once you go through the steps and get your first script working, it becomes second nature over time. And there are tons of resources available if you need more detailed instructions on the specific steps for your language. So the next question that follows is, what are some use cases of Selenium? So let's explore some common use cases for Selenium, because I know many of you might be wondering, okay, I get the theory, but how can I actually use this in a real world scenario? And Selenium is primarily used for 5 main cases. The first one is for automated web testing. So this is the most common use case, whether you're testing user interfaces, verifying functionalities, or doing regression tests to make sure new changes don't break existing functionality. Selenium is your go-to tool. You can write tests that simulate user interactions on the web to ensure the application behaves as expected. And the second use case is for web scraping. Although Selenium is primarily used as a testing tool, it's often used for web scraping as well. This is particularly useful for dynamically loaded web pages, which other scraping tools might struggle with. So you can use Selenium to extract data from pages that require interaction, such as logging in, clicking buttons, or navigating through pages. Uh, where was I? Yeah, so the third use case is for automating repetitive web tasks. So if you find yourself manually filling up forms, submitting applications, or doing similar tasks in a browser, Selenium can help you automate all of that. You can write scripts to interact with forms, checkboxes, drop downs, and other web elements, making your tasks much more efficient. And a fourth use case is performance testing. So with Selenium, you can also write scripts that help you test the performance of web applications, such as simulating a large number of users performing actions on your site simultaneously. Although tools like JMeter are more specialized for performance testing, Selenium can be part of your performance testing toolkit. And the fifth use case is for cross-browser testing. With Selenium Grid, you can run your tests across multiple browsers, ensuring that your web application works properly in different environments. So this is particularly useful when working in a team that needs to validate the application's behavior on a variety of browsers and operating systems. Excuse me. Uh, so let's talk about common challenges and best practices. Um, of course, no tool is perfect. Selenium has its own set of challenges that you'll encounter along the way. And let's talk about some of these common hurdles and how you can overcome them. The first one is handling dynamic content. So one of the biggest challenges when automating with Selenium is dealing with dynamic content, especially things like Ajax, JavaScript, or elements that appear after a certain delay. Uh, to deal with this, the key here is to use weights, either explicit or implicit weights, which lets Selenium know to wait for an element to appear or page to load before interacting with it. Uh, the second hurdle is dealing with pop-ups and alerts. Another challenge is handling browser pop-ups or JavaScript alerts. Fortunately, Selenium provides simple methods for interacting with these pop-ups, like accepting or dismissing alerts, entering data into prompts, or switching to frames. The third hurdle is locating elements. So finding elements on a page can sometimes be tricky if you're not careful with your locators. So your tests may break when elements change or when they are dynamically rendered. So a best practice is to use stable locators like IDs or CSS selectors, and to ensure that your elements are unique on the page. Okay, all right, so that wraps up today's deep dive into Selenium. We've covered the basics, answered some common questions, and discussed how Selenium can be a powerful tool in your automation testing toolkit. Remember that Selenium is all about flexibility, and with the right approach, it can be a huge asset for you. So if you're interested in learning more or getting started with Selenium, um, don't hesitate to check out more detailed tutorials on my channel. I also offer one-on-one personalized coaching. And if you become a Codelenium member on Ko-fi, you will also get unlimited access to Selenium scripts. Uh, yeah, so the links for all of these will be in the description. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope this has helped you get a better understanding of Selenium. Bye. I'll see you in the next episode.